Hello, people, trans and otherwise. Um, well, this video is a long time coming. I've wanted to make it for a while, um, but I didn't really have a specific idea of what I wanted to say. I probably should have scripted some of this, or at least written down some talking points, but I think I'm just gonna go off the cuff, and we'll see how badly that pays off or doesn't. So I guess what I want to talk about, as I'm sure the title will indicate in some way, is trans identity. And I guess I would like to start by discussing my history with trans identity, my personal view of it. I've always sort of struggled with fully supporting the T portion of LGBT Q, and I didn't really know why. I couldn't quite put my finger on it for a very long time. I would always just, say I'm LGBTQ friendly and all that stuff, and just sort of express sort of blanket support of the community. But the T always was a struggle for me, and again, I could not articulate why, and I was like, as I thought about it more and more, I wondered, am I like a low-key bigot hater type of person? Why doesn't the T sit right with me? What's wrong? And I thought about it and really kind of, I guess, I can't quite remember the first time I really, really thought about it, but at some point, I really, really thought about it. At some point before 2015, because I write journals. I write, about important events in my life, and I guess that's called journaling or diary keeping. And so I've done that periodically for most of my life. I'm asking, right? I've done that periodically for most of my life. Anyway, my point is that at some point before some date in 2015, I thought about the T in LGBT a lot, and I came to a few conclusions that are not quite the same now, but basically it's so complicated. It's called My Official Opinion About Transgendered People. I'm gonna just read it. Okay. So I wrote on September 15th. Was it September? Yeah, right? September 14th, 2015. Trans folk totally reinforce gender stereotypes. I thought I was 100% I thought I was a 100% LGBT supporter. Until about a year ago, when I really started, I guess that answers that. Until about a year ago, when I really started to think things through regarding the T part of that alliance. I am not a bigot or a monster. I am the opposite. I am liberal as hell and would not want anyone to feel suicidal over their biological identity. But after much, alright, much thought, I don't think I support trans people, at least not in the way that is most popular to support them. Trans women seem to always want to be the most feminine, sexy stereotype of female, not real, wrinkled, bleeding, menopausal, makeupless, hairy females. It's sexist and not logical. How is one mentally female? I don't know why I'm reading this with such punchiness in my voice, but why not? Okay, sorry, back to it. How is one mentally female if they don't actually and naturally possess the same amount of estrogen that bio women possess? Because they feel female in some other way? What does that mean? How does one feel female? You feel your gender is female because you prefer to don the shallow aesthetic society has assigned to females? That's just sexist. It's like I'm mocking myself the way I'm reading this, but yeah, whatever. The more progressive and healthy thing to do would be to tell that little confused bio boy that just because he wants to paint his nails and wear makeup and that doesn't make him any less of a boy, as there is nothing wrong with bio boys wearing makeup, and nothing inherently female about makeup or nail polish or even long hair to begin with. I feel like the right thing to tell that bio boy is that he can don any sort of look he finds visually pleasing, and if anyone questions his maleness for it, they're simply dense and sexist and don't understand that boys and girls are merely humans, born clean slates, with no color or accessory or hair length preferences, and can dress any way that is humanly possible for them to dress, because that is a freedom every human in a free society. What did I write? Because that is a freedom every human has in a free society, and clothes and hair length don't have a gender. Society is just dumb, illogical, sexist, and slow to realize this. I would want my bio boy and bio girl to feel good in their natural bodies and feel no obligation to insult their vessels by calling themselves a gender they are not, just because of society's sexist ideas of what a woman looks like versus what a man looks like. I feel like supportive society is telling trans people all the wrong things, ironically sexist and backwards things. This is so hard to discuss because I don't want to hurt the feelings of trans people, but I've grown to feel so strongly about this. I do 100% support their clothing and hair choices and all of that surface stuff, but not their calling themselves a gender they simply are not. People on my side, left-wingers in parentheses, are not thinking this through at all, it seems. And that is the end of that entry. And now, my opinion is basically the same as that. Basically, my opinion now is essentially the same. I just think, and I don't like to call it an opinion, because opinion implies that there's an argument to be had, although technically there is, because if the way things are now, facts do get argued with. So, in my opinion, a man is a male human who is an adult. That is a fact, but that is argued with a lot, right? So, everything's debatable, technically. Um, but that's where I am. I think that trans women and trans men are definitely real, definitely valid, but they are not actually women and men, respectively. They're men and women, they're boys and girls. And it's hard to talk about this because, so many reasons. Namely, that you'll be labeled some slur, or you'll be considered a mean person. And I'm not a mean person, usually, but there's a little bit of the transgender identity that, some aspects of it on both sides, with trans men and trans women, that's really just offensive. I don't like to say any of this, because it feels mean, and I don't know if it's social conditioning. I don't know for sure if it's inherent. I know Jordan Peterson would say it's innate to the female that females are agreeable because we have to be agreeable because we make babies and we can't be too argumentatively minded or whatever if we're rearing very needy babies, whatever. That's what I've heard Jordan Peterson say. I agree with him on some things. I don't know how true that is, but I do know that it's certainly reinforced by rearing. That's what I really am aware of. I don't know how innate it is, but I do know it's reinforced. If it's innate at all, it's reinforced and possibly just enforced by society. With female rearing, there's a whole urging to be nice and to be sweet and to be kind and to not hurt feelings. It's very, like even rejecting a guy is feels so mean. There are these roundabout ways that women and girls do it. But yeah, I think, yes, that's what I was saying. Women are reared to be very considerate of other people's feelings and to not be mean. As much as women are called bitches and thought of as catty and stuff, but by and large, I think women are really considerate of people's feelings. But I know girls can be mean catty. But I don't know, if you look at the comments on any Amy Schumer video, boys are very catty and mean and quite cruel, really. They say much worse things than I've ever experienced a girl say about a girl. They say just really vile things about wanting her to be dead, and I don't know. I think guys are plenty catty. I don't know why women got that stereotype. I guess my point overall is that trans identity, this is such a big statement. It's a problem. It's a little bit problematic. I think there is a lot of reinforcing of gender stereotypes that goes with trans identity. I think it's really, I don't know. I was gonna say I think it's really unhealthy, But I don't know, some people make it work, but I don't know, life is weird. I guess someone could live their whole life and be their trans identity and not their actual identity, and it could be fine for them. But I do think a lot of the mental health issues that trans people tend to have don't even get addressed. And there's a huge problem too with that group, with the trans community, where there isn't any alternative to just to transitioning. There isn't any like acknowledgement of of like, cuz like tomorrow, like I could tomorrow say to a group of strangers on any like trans forum for where trans people speak and share their thoughts and views. um I could go and find an online community of trans people and say, like, I identify as a man because any reason is the problem. I could say because I love science, and I just I just I've always wanted to, I don't know, grow a beard. I could say anything, I think. And trans people, if you watch this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I could say pretty much anything, and not a trans person would question it or stop me or anything. There's no questioning. There's no barrier into transitioning. There's no barrier into acceptance. There's no barrier. It's like there's no acknowledgement that people can be trans for the wrong reasons, like very sexist reasons, which I think is the majority of them, really. Um, and like there's no acknowledgement of like the fact that people can self-diagnose and self-ID erroneously. Like it happens. Like there are people who detransition. It happens in that obvious way, and then it happens in smaller ways. People who don't even go to the length of transitioning, but people just from talking to them and or just hearing them discuss their trans identity, it's like so apparent that what they're connecting with are a series of stereotypes that they don't feel comfortable partaking in as a male or female. And because everyone else is like gender sick, I don't know what else to call it, is like brainwashed with gender roles, I should say. Their parents, the parents, they reinforced it too. Like there are so many parents, especially the religious ones, who I think they would rather have they would rather call their son their daughter than have to explain why their daughter or why their son has long hair and a dress and is always gushing about boys and wearing pink and everything. They would feel more embarrassed to call that overtly socially feminine child their son than to just say, oh, that's our daughter. Yep, trans daughter, and we love her. Like it seems like, oh, that's such a big thing for parents to accept their child as their trans children. But I think a lot of parents though are not, they're actually choosing the less difficult thing, because it's much more difficult socially to have a child who maybe looks more like Angelina Jolie's um, Shiloh, and let her present as she wants and still recognize her femaleness and say, oh, that's our daughter. It's harder for the everyday parent to do that, when they could easily just go, oh yeah, well, it's not like necessarily easy, but I think it is easier to just go, oh yeah, that kid who looks like a boy because of the social like male costume they're donning, That's our son. The thing you thought he was when you looked at him, that's what he is. So easy. I mean, well, easier um, than saying, oh no, that's our daughter. Having to correct people over and over, especially when they're in that prepubescent stage where they really can, like, chameleon into either quote unquote gender. Um, yeah. But yeah, the short of it is that there are problems with trans identity, a lot of them. And I think there should be an alternative to, excuse me, I think there should be a prescribed alternative to transitioning. It, I, it doesn't even seem like therapists even go any kind of route um, that involves bodily acceptance and, like, I mean, everyone is so brainwashed, even the therapists. All that to say, therapists, psychiatrists, they get stuff wrong. So, and now it's even harder if you are a therapist who's like, hey, let's slow down here. Let's maybe talk to these kids and talk them through these feelings. And why do you feel like a boy? What do you think it means to feel like a boy? What does that mean to you? What do you identify a boy as? Like, I feel like that series of questions is like makes you a pariah now. It's like it's very socially unacceptable to not just go straight into the puberty blockers, which is insane. Um, so unnatural. It's so unnatural. It's so. Okay, so there's probably more I wanted to say, but now I'm just tired of talking and I'm getting hoarse. I need to get water or something. But yeah. So, I guess the final thought is love yourself, love your body. It's really great, even the genitals part, as it is. And you don't need add-ons, and you don't need cosmetic surgery, even if you're not trans. You don't need any of that. Yeah. Alright, goodbye.